All right, all right. Uh-oh. I have the wrong the wrong background. Let's go to one of my favorite places. Here we are. Okay, I am now broadcasting from some island somewhere out there, on the beach and watching the sunrise, something like that. All right. But Grand Rising, my fellow Elohim, my fellow Eternals. Welcome back to another sunny Sunday of the One Great I Am Awakening. I am Chris Taylor, one of your hosts, and with me, as always, is my partner in spirit and in mind, Mr. Gregory Isaac Thomas.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. He's there.
Yeah, man. Peace, peace. Grand rising to everybody. Good to have everybody out. I don't know if the sun is shining or shot you guys, them and I see no sunlight, but the light is still there. That's the one thing about the light. You don't even have to see it physically to be aware that it is there.
True.
A man last night, where we at last night, the electricity go away. I have a little birthday party thing, and in midnight, the electricity went out. It
Mm,
stayed out for a while. Even when we go bed last night, the electricity was still out. I don't know when it come back. But a man start to tell us of an instance where his son, and what is a Jamaican man, and he tell us his son in carry him to Jamaica. And while he was out there in Jamaica, electricity go off. And of course, the son, he had never experienced that in America. Electricity not really go in America.
yeah.
So his son was asking him, what happened with the light? What happened? So tell him, say, son, the light gone.
Yeah.
So his son looked at him and said, where did it go? So and from that I thought, and I serious note is a good question.
Where did it go?
And then if it was right here now and it's not there, where did it go?
Mm,
Good.
that's a good
I'll tell you
question.
what, it went somewhere that is not here. Now the light can't just totally disappear. You might not have no light here, but light is light there somewhere.
Yes, yes, it still
And
exists.
that's it still exists. And that's what I'm saying to you guys this morning now. That even when you can't see the light,
Hmm.
the wheel look dark, when you know that the light exists, you can continue to pursue in the dark because you know the light go show up. And there's always a little spark inside of you, not a big light. The light within is not a big light, it's a spark. It's a spark, and you know it's there because even when you can't see your way on the outside through the world of five senses, these eyes can't show you the way. There's a spark within you in the form of a desire. And that spark, as small as it is as much light as the big light. The spark it has all the components where the big light have, but it's only a spark. And when you have a spark, what you have to do with the spark to make it into a light? You have to continue to give energy to the spark. So you have to pay attention to that spark that you're feeling inside, that you're feeling, that one you don't see it, you feel it.
Mm.
Pay attention to it and it gets bigger. It turns into the light. That's so you can walk forward clearly. So these are things that you have to work with what you know. All these years we've been working with what we believe and it not work. Now that you know something that you know, you have to work with what you know. So when you know that there is an interactive power within you, you know it. You can't deny that. You talk to yourself all the time. So you
Mm.
know that there's a presence within you. You have to lean into it deep. And that's how that little spark becomes a flame. Sir Chris.
Yeah, man, I like that. That's how you strike a match. And from a spark, it turns into a fire, a blaze. And you put that match to some dry leaves or something like that, or wood, and that thing becomes a blazing fire. So the spark does magnifies when you give it attention. So that's what you're saying, Sir T. Energy flows where attention goes. So um as you're paying attention to your desire, which we're going to talk about today, the way in which it's going to manifest will, be magnified, and you will see the light of it. To that little boy's question, where did the light go? The light is always within. The light of all lights is always within you. And anything manifest is the light. Scripture tells you everything is the light, and all that manifests, is the light. The light is your consciousness, your awareness of being, your imagination. Cannot be seen,
Ah,
but anything that manifests becomes, the light revealed, to use Sir T, um one of Sir T's quotes, truth revealed. Not Joe.
Circus truth revealed for real. Guys, hear it now. You see what you just said a while ago about that light within
Hmm.
and how original it is and how faithful it is and how present it is at all times. If you should go even to the book says in St. John chapter 1, it's a scripture that is well known. Every believer know it. When I say know it, I mean they can say it poetically. But it says, in the beginning was the spark. That word. It is that word that people turn into a physical man named Jesus. Later down in the thing, them come out with an interpretation of that becomes a physical man with them called Jesus. But it says, in the beginning was the word, the spark. And the word, the spark, was with God, the big flame. And the word, the spark, was God, the big flame. You see it so far? In the beginning, there was a spark, and the spark was with the big flame, and the big flame was the spark.
Hmm.
That is the origination of every man. Every man is that. So if you interpret that to be Jesus, then every man is Jesus. And the word was God, and the word was God. And he said, and the light came. Men did not recognize the light.
The light dwell among you.
Dwell among them, and it dwell among them, and they received him not. Of course, the
Hmm.
light was always there, and people did not receive it. But
Mm.
to them that receive it, to them gave he the power to become the sons of God. To those who
Mm.
recognize the spark, he gave them the power to become the sons of God. What? To do anything that God can do. What does God do? Create
Mm.
material stuff out of immaterial stuff.
Mm. Yep.
And the light shined in the darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not. The light shined in the darkness, the spark is there, the man is walking in the darkness, and the man walking in the darkness comprehended not that the light is within him.
Mm.
Until one day, alas, he wakes up and there's the light. And that man is now what you call an ascended being.
Yeah. Coming to the point of remembrance,
Coming to the point of remembrance.
Yeah.
And that's what it was all about the whole time.
Mm.
You notice how consistent that is with every man, whether he be Jew or Gentile, whether he be Protestant or what. No matter what you say you believe in, that does not change the dynamic of the fact that you come here with a spark inside of you that has to become a light. Not different. There is nothing that a religious person can do that you, as an irreligious person, cannot do. Name me one thing. Name me one thing right now that physically in the earth, in the three dimensions, where a Christian can do because him is a Christian. That's why he can do that. And I cannot do it because I am not a Christian.
Or a Jew.
There is nothing there is no power in none of that. Because that's what power is. Power is to be able to do something. Well, do something, show me, when we can do. There's nothing.
Mhm.
Absolutely nothing. Whatever you are gonna do, you still have to come back to the same factory where we go to. And still within you have to come get your power to do where you go to. There's no power out there. None. All power comes from within. So, and it is the same thing for the Jew, for the Hindu, for the Baptist, for the Protestant, for the dancehall, man. I see it. We are all one and the same in every way, regardless what we delude ourselves about in terms of our beliefs and our, personal, whatever innuendos where we have. Whatever we want to, it doesn't matter. It all come back to we are the same thing. How we know how much we are the same thing? We all come here the same way, we all live here the same way, and we all leave here the same way. And there's nothing we can do about none of that. No man has the power to arrive here in a different way. No man have the power to live, exist here in a different way. Meaning him still have to need oxygen and him still have to use the bathroom and him still have to go through everything. And no matter how much money he have. And when him leave, him still have to leave, and him still have to leave same like where else I will leave. And him have to leave everything behind just like else I will. What's the difference between the wise and the fool? And the wise live and die likewise, the fool said Garnet Silk. What can I tell you? A man is just a man. We're all the same thing. So at some point we have to come, there has to be a common inference that applies to us all. Forget about breaking us up into whether it is being baptized in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost that make you into the heaven, or whether it's baptized in Jesus' name, or it's whether you're a Muslim or a this or that. Nah. The end of the day, there's a common thread. What is that common thread? Common thread is that spark within. We all come here with it, we all operate by it. That's what it is.
Spirit of the Father. Yeah, man.
Yes.
That's right. That's what we are.
It's the emptiness. It is the empty. It is the empty. It is the emptiness that holds everything together. That emptiness that is just there, does nothing but leaves nothing undone. Meaning nothing can exist without the empty. The wholeness cannot exist without the emptiness. It is the silence within the noise. The silence does nothing but leaves nothing undone. The silence is doing nothing, it's just there. But the noise cannot exist without it. That's what the God is. The God is just that one thing that just sits there. It is the blue sky that just sits there while the cloud does whatever it wants to do. But the cloud can never out endure the blue sky. The blue sky is just sitting there. The cloud has to move off and go where it go.
Have a change.
Yes, and the silence has all the patience in the whole world. You can make all the noise you want. Because the silence knows that the noise have a top. And it's gonna be right there. You have to come back to the silence. The emptiness knows that the wholeness, if the emptiness removes itself, the wholeness becomes empty. Because emptiness must be. Because that's what the God of zero out, man. When you're at zero, you're at 360 now. When you're at 0 degree, you're at 360 degree. That's when you become the nothing and the everything all at once. That's when you become the nothing and the everything. That's when you become the beginning and the end all at once. When you're at 0. If you're 0 out, we're coming to a lesson now, guys. Just a reason. When you, the greatest understanding that you will ever come to, commit your way to it if you can. Now, if you can, you can. Commit your way to it for as long as you can. Is to coming to the awakening that none of this is real. You see, just like how you sleep last night and dream, and when you wake up this morning, you realize the way you had a dream last night. You say it wasn't real, it was just a dream. You see, just like how you know, and you wake up now, so you realize the way you did that dream last night, you know for a fact it was a dream. Well, please come to know for a fact that everything that you're going through in this physical 3-dimensional is a dream. It's not real. It's not real. And when you come to that inner standing there, it gives you the power to stand in the midst of whatever is going on. Why? Because you wake up in a middle of a dream and realize it's a dream. If you're having a dream, night dream, you talk where you sleep on your bed. and a million soldier come against you, line up with them gonna sit if it kill you. But somewhere in the middle of the dream, you did already wake up. Just before that, you'd already wake up in the dream and realize you're dreaming a dream.
Yeah.
Is your heart in fear in that moment when you realize it's only a dream? No. It's the same thing here. When you wake up and come to that inner standing here, no, this is not something you're gonna believe now. When you know that, you know, say it's a dream. I dropped my job the 8th of December 1972. When time I come here, I dropped my job asleep. And I've been sleeping the whole time.
Hmm.
I've been sleeping the whole time from the 8th of December 1972 till now. And everything that I experience in the daytime, that's what I'm dreaming. And then I go back home at night. What's happening at night, that's you going back to being pure spirit. You notice you don't have nobody with you when you go back at night. When you go within yourself at night, you don't have nobody.
Mm-mm.
That's when you go back to being. If you want to know where you were before you came here, which is equivalent to where you go when you leave here.
Beginning and end. Mm.
Yes, it's the same. Where you go at night when you sleep in a dream world, that's where you were before you put this body on. That's where you go when you get this body off. Because that's the world of nobody. When I say that's the world of nobody, I'm playing on the word nobody here now, you know. That's
Yeah.
the world of nobody. In that world, you don't have nobody. No body, no physical body. And over there is nobody except you. When you go to your dream, whoever you see in that dream, you are the one playing all the parts. When me go sleep, I'm a dream, say me and Sir Chris and Sir Marlon, they on the phone attack. I'm me alone there in another world. I'm the one playing the part of Sir Chris and Sir Marlon. While I'm having that dream, Sir Chris is cutting somebody here. And Sir Marlon, I drive him truck, I go a road. I'm me alone there asleep. So that's the world of nobody. It's only you in that world. Well,
Mhm.
please come to understand it's the same in this world. It's only you having a dream. Wake up, circus.
Yeah, man, there's a lot to unpack from that right there. Very, very deep, you know. I love it. Very, very insightful, and I hope everyone here listening was and is following along, you know, and getting the drift of everything. Fundamentally, you know, we are dreamers, and that's why we have the power to, you know, to change our perspective, our perception of things. Because if it was real, we would not be able to change it. The only one that's real is the dreamer. The things you're dreaming about are not. They're just parts and experiences that we are playing, you know? And so we get to, like anything, move them around, design them, organize them, and choose how we feel about them, you know? So, yeah, wonderful perspective on that, Sir T. All right. As for today's lesson, our title is You Must First Decrease for Your Desires to Increase. All right. You must first decrease for your desires to increase. So, what's that all about? We're going to talk about the story of John the Baptist and his cousin, Jesus Christ. All right. And this story is basically what we're going to employ today in order to manifest, in order to increase our desires. Increasing just means to make it visible. It's at a decreased level right now, meaning it's unseen. Kind of like the spark Sarah mentioned earlier. It's a spark, but we're going to set it ablaze so that it may be seen. You know, just like any brush fire, anything that starts, it before it became a blaze, it was a spark, you know? And at some point it became seen, probably because the wind hit it, you know? And the wind, which is similar to consciousness or akin to consciousness or a symbolic gesture of consciousness, is what maximizes our magnifies your desire, your conscious attention that is to this particular part you want to play, experience, you know, or just get entangled with. You have the power to magnify it. All right. So we're going to employ the services of John the Baptist and Jesus in order to do just that. So I'm going to play this video of Neville. Well, it's Neville, but we have a guy, Brian Scott, I believe is his name, is going to give us read the lecture to us that Neville had back in the day about these two characters. Um, Not going to play much of it, maybe 10 minutes or so. It's very mellow and stuff. I just want to give you guys the concept somewhat of, the characters that the two are playing. And we're going to come back and address it appropriately in order to bring the understanding of what we are doing as beings here on earth, having this fleshly body or fleshly body, but hidden within us is the fundamental body that is in charge of everything that we do, you know, um, that appears, everything that appears is from this fundamental body. All right. So let's bring up that audio. Let's see. I think this is it right here. All right. And okay, it's above this. All right, here we are. Okay, so this is on his book, it's titled Never Got It, that is One Greater Than John. Okay. One greater than John. And as you know in the story, they were always talking about, John the Baptist, and he would say, you know, John the Baptist was like considered the greatest of them all at the time. No other person that was born of woman was greater than John the Baptist. And John the Baptist said, not true. There is actually one greater than I that is to come, who is the Messiah. They kind of thought that he was the Messiah. And he was saying, in the story, there is one who's to come that is greater than I. So um, he was foretelling, that there is a greater side of you that is hidden, and it is to come in your awakening. Kind of like, similar to what Serti was mentioning earlier, when we become awakened or remember who we truly are. That is your awakening. All right. And then what appears after that is the greater self, which John the Baptist was alluding to. So let's play this at length for a little bit, and we're gonna come back and give our thoughts on it.
Welcome to the Reality Revolution. Today we got another fantastic lecture by Neville Goddard called One Greater Than John. Now, I went to this one because it was recommended by 2020. So check out my interview with 2020, who runs the Free Neville website, who has some amazing teachings about Neville Goddard, and our interview was really, really enlightening. And I asked him to name his two favorite lectures, and this was his second favorite lecture. I've already done The Pearl of Great Price, which was his first favorite. And this one really appealed to me because when I read it after he had said that, the lecture talks about one of the states that we go through is, before we move to the ultimate state, is the state of John. And it's the state of the teetotaler, the one that doesn't eat any meat, that doesn't do any drugs, that sacrifices themselves and goes through this period. We all go through it. It's a state that we go through. And so the teaching is very interesting, especially when you find out more about Neville Goddard's life. He wasn't a teetotaler later in his life. He was relaxed, and he would party, he would drink. So, one greater than John. So tonight's subject is one greater than John. I think you will find this a most practical approach to this teaching, Neville says. When we open the Bible, we think it is just a normal book. May I tell you, it is not. It is divine history, and all the characters in Scripture represent states of consciousness. From Adam to Jesus, everyone. They're not individuals as you and I are. They're simply representatives of these states of awareness. And the very last, before the page turns into an entirely new age, is called John. And so we are told in the earliest of the Gospels, which is Mark, after John was arrested, Jesus came preaching the gospel of God. John 1:14. After John was arrested, then he appears preaching the gospel of God. What is the story trying to tell us? So here, let me share you my experience. I didn't know it either, but I'll tell you how this thing works. John, we are told, is the very last of the great prophets, as we're told, of those born of women. None is greater than John, yet the least in the kingdom is greater than he. Matthew 11:11. None greater than John is in this world, yet the least in the kingdom is greater than he. And John came not eating or drinking. If you take that on this level, that's nonsense because the body could not survive. Another gospel states he came neither eating bread nor drinking wine. This tries in some way to explain that he did not eat or drink. Well, there's no statement in the law of Moses against eating bread or drinking wine, unless you are one of the Nazarenes, and it's true as to wine, but certainly not eating bread. The Last Supper was the eating of bread and the drinking of wine. But he came neither eating bread, if you want to take it, certainly not eating bread. The Last Supper was the eating of bread and the drinking of wine. But he came neither eating bread, if you want to take it that way, nor drinking wine. But the Son of Man came eating and drinking, and they called him a glutton and a drunkard, a friend of tax collectors and sinners. But we think this night of one greater than John, who was the greatest in this world, yet not equal to the least in the world called the kingdom of heaven. Now these are only states of consciousness through which every man passes. If you are not now in the state of John, may I tell you, you're going to be sometime in the state of John. If not now, in this present little environment, when the wheel turns and it returns, you will be in that state. So understand this state. This is not something that it's just in the Bible. You are going to go through this, or you've already been through it in another incarnation. Everyone passes through the state of John before he comes into the state of Jesus Christ. Now, what is the state of John? We come into this world now. Let me share with you my own personal experiences. Goddard states, I was born in a very limited environment, small little island in the West Indies called Barbados. My father ran a little grocery store, but it was a general store, not only groceries, but meat, fish, fowl, liquor, and wine. I mean, it supplied everything for the table. I was raised in that environment where it seemed the most normal, natural thing in the world to eat anything that was placed on the table. And so I did. I left Barbados at the age of 17 and came to America, believing as I did everything placed before me that was edible was right. And then I fell into a state, the state called John. John came not eating or drinking. And then I fell into the state where I gave up all the things that I did normally as a boy, right through until I was 17 years old. I fell into the state at the age of 20, a little after 20, say 21, where I would not eat any meat, any fish, fowl, not even eggs. Naturally, in those days, I didn't drink, so that was not giving up wine, but that couldn't cross my lips. I did violence to my own appetites. Because as a child, as a boy, I indulged in everything that my father placed before me. And suddenly I gave it all up. And for 7 years, I was a strict vegetarian, teetotaler, and celibate. So here we see that Neville went through a period of time where he was a complete vegan. He wouldn't eat meat, fish, fowl, not even eggs, and he wouldn't drink, and he was a strict vegetarian, and a teetotaler, wouldn't drink, and he was celibate, meaning he didn't have any sex. So John represents that state in man's ongoing when he does violence to his appetite, and yet life is nothing more than the appeasement of hunger. God gives to every man in this world a hunger that he can, if he knows God's law, satisfy. He can clothe himself with the fulfillment of his dream and satisfy it. But there's a state where man passes through, and it's called John the Baptist, where he does violence to his appetite. So you have an appetite for things, and Neville is really saying here that your appetite is not a bad thing. Neville states, I met a friend of mine in New York City. His name was Abdullah. He said to me in 1933, I met him in 29, and he did everything. He ate everything. He drank everything. He didn't smoke only because he didn't enjoy it, but he did everything. An old man was then in his late 80s when I met him, and he said to me, so you're going to Barbados? You want to go to Barbados? I said, yes. Now this is where the good news of the kingdom comes in. Then, when I met him, I did not eat flesh in any form. I did not drink alcohol in any form, and no smoking, and I was celibate. And he said, well then, you are now in Barbados. I said, I'm in Barbados? This is on 72nd Street in New York City, where the buildings can go 30 and 40 stories high. Barbados, if you find a 3-story building, you're lucky. The little one and the 2-story buildings and no sidewalk, but no sidewalk. So we see that the idea of being in Barbados, based on his current environment, was preposterous. So he had to imagine a different environment, even though he wasn't in it. One little tiny street we call Broad Street. To this day, we call it Broad Street. And that's the only place that has a sidewalk. All the other areas, no sidewalks. You walk in the street or you walk in the gutter, but there is no such thing as a sidewalk. And he said to me, now clothe yourself with Barbados. Put it on as you would another garment, just as you would another garment, so that you would smell the tropics and you would see what you see were you in Barbados. And entering into a state is very much like clothing yourself. It's a great analogy. Well, I did to the best of my ability, and I clothed myself with Barbados, Goddardstead. And when I thought then that night, the first night that I clothed myself with Barbados, I thought of New York City. I saw it 2,000 miles to the north of me. Then I had succeeded in clothing myself with Barbados. I fell asleep in the assumption I am in Barbados. Well, the days went on from this, and I would say late October through November, and yet I'm not physically in Barbados. So I tried to open my discussion with Abdullah, and I said, Ab, I did all that you told me. I clothed myself with Barbados. I am sleeping in Barbados, and yet here I am in New York City. He would not talk to me. He turned his back upon me the very first time I brought it up. He walked towards his studio and slammed the door in my face. And if you knew Abdullah as I knew him, that was no invitation to come in. Abdullah knew that the idea of pondering your present reality was going to, in that very nature, take him away from going to Barbados. So if I'm clothing myself in Barbados and with Barbados, then I must be faithful to this clothing. That's the good news spoken of after John is arrested, not before. John is doing violence, trying to gain the kingdom of heaven by being good. We do not get to the kingdom of heaven by being good. You don't get to the kingdom of heaven by meditating for 10 hours a day. You don't get to the kingdom of heaven by never eating meat again, by only eating salads. You don't get to the kingdom of heaven by doing these things. You don't get to the kingdom of heaven by being good. And he said to me, you're so good. You're good for nothing. And you're trying to get into the kingdom by being good. You don't eat meat, no kind of meat. You don't drink any alcoholic liquor, so you're so good. And you're celibate at the age that you are today. And so all the fires you've bottled up in you, trying to be good. So I kept on wearing my garment. I am in Barbados. On the morning of the 4th of December, a letter came to my door. Stuck under the door from my brother's giving reasons why he wanted me to come to Barbados, and enclosing in that letter a ticket for Barbados. I had not gone home to Barbados in 11 years. I made no request. I didn't write the family. My brother Victor writes me saying that you must come, and no response other than yes would he accept, and enclosing a little draft to buy shirts if I need them, or a pair of shoes, and stating in the letter to use the check to the fullest advantage. Charge everything, and when I arrived in Barbados, well, he would board the ship and pay all expenses that I had signed. If I used the bar, use the bar. He didn't know I wasn't drinking, but all expenses. The tipping of the steward, the tipping of everyone in that ship. He would board the ship, take care of all my expenses. But I must come. When he gave me his reasons for it, he justified why. I went down to that ship on the morning of the 6th and got my passage, and off I went. Before I went, Abdullah said to me, "So you're going to Barbados. May I tell you, you're going to die, but you surely will not die, but you will die." He didn't explain. Like Blake, he never would tell me the interpretation of his statement, "You will die." Well, I went off thinking, well, I'll die. Die in Barbados. I didn't die in Barbados, but I died. I died to everything that I was doing. I lived in Barbados for 3 months, which is the Christmas season, and everyone is entertaining. I'm returning from America after 11 years, and party after party is given for my honor. It's Christmas, it's New Year's, they're all drinking, all having fun, and I simply drank water. Mother prepared all kinds of meals, and I would just eat a vegetable meal. She never heard of it. We were raised supplying the entire island with meat, with fish, with fowl, with everything, with all the wine. Everything was home. And I just said no, I would take vegetables. I was there for 1 solid 3 months. I came back to that ship going north, and the night I entered that ship, we set maybe 6 or 8 people at a table, and we all introduced ourselves. My name is Neville Goddard. And so I would shake hands, and this one is so-and-so, and you all introduce yourself aboard the ship. Then the man to my right said to the waiter, "Let us see what you have for wine." The waiter brought the wine list. He said, "We'll have that." I didn't say wine, so he ordered that wine. Then came the first course, soup. So I didn't ask if there's meat stock in this, as I'd done for 7 years. I drank the soup. Then he brought the second course. It was fish, and I ate the fish. He brought the third course. It was meat, and I ate the meat all the time, pouring down the wine. Everything that I had not done in 7 years, I did that night. And then from then on, for the 10 or 12 days at sea, till I got off the ship in New York City. Then I understood what he meant, "You will die." That state called John the Baptist, which does violence to itself, you must pass through it. So it's interesting. If you look back, Neville is saying that he's on his way back. He's on the boat, and he begins to eat the soup. It might have meat in it. Then he has fish, and he eats the meat. And he says, "Everything I had not done in 7 years, I did that night." Remember, he said he was celibate. So that means that Neville got lucky on his boat trip back. Good for Neville.
All right, we're going to end it there. That part was funny. Never got lucky on his way back from Barbados. All right. So let's see if we can unpack this story of John the Baptist and Jesus and Neville and Abdullah. So it's funny, Neville and Abdullah was playing the part of John the Baptist in that example. Neville was John, and Abdullah was, of course, the Jesus character that Neville must embody at some point as he was passing through the state of John the Baptist. So to set the stage, I have the story here of John the Baptist and Jesus and what must take place to get to the fulfillment of that state of passing from John to Jesus Christ or to Christ consciousness. All right. It says right here, the story of Jesus and John the Baptist is a fundamental biblical narrative of preparation, humility, and passing the torch. Again, it is a biblical narrative of preparation, humility, and passing the torch. Who's passing the torch? All right. It bridges the prophetic tradition of the Old Testament with the beginning of Jesus' public ministry in the New Testament. So we're passing from the Old Testament to the New Testament. All right. We're moving from one state of consciousness to the other. John the Baptist, he's representing the state of the old um, individual or the old concept or perception of yourself. Um, and Jesus is the new perception of yourself. So that's why the Old Testament comes before the New. Um, Here are the key milestones of their relationship. Miraculous birth. John the Baptist was born to the elderly priest Zachariah and Elizabeth. Elizabeth was a relative of Mary, Jesus' mother. So that's why that makes them cousins. Okay. John, who was born 6 months before Jesus. Oh, interesting. The month 6 months before. There's a reason for that. Was called to the prophet who would prepare the way for the Messiah. Was called to be a prophet who would prepare the way for the Messiah. So he's prophesying what is to come, are predicting, are foretelling what is to come, right? Um, and what that really means is, you know, John the Baptist also represents, the body or your conscious mind, you being conscious first of the body, of your five senses, and it is the conscious mind who foretells or predicts what it desires or what's coming next. You understand? It foretells prior to something coming in the form of desire. So this is you foretelling or going before your desire appears. Um, and that desire is also can be seen as the Messiah, you know, um, the one who's to come. So, um, the wilderness and the message. John grew up as an ascetic in the Judean desert, wearing clothes of camel's hair and eating locusts and wild honey. He preached a message of repentance and baptized people in the Jordan River as a physical sign of cleansing. John famously declared that he was unworthy to even untie the sandals of the one coming after him. All right, so he was seen as eating wild locusts, we say, eating locusts and wild honey. Um, to exemplify, as they're saying here in this you know um presentation of Neville, saying that the state of John is you starving yourself. But I want you guys to look at this symbolically. All right. Neville was said to be a vegan or did not eat meat anymore and stuff like that. And he also mentioned in some of his lectures that, and even in the Bible, that people practice certain things or to be righteous. If they feel like, well, if I practice being a vegan, if I practice not eating pork, if I practice being, um, celibate or, stuff like that, that makes me worthy of the kingdom of heaven. That makes me worthy to go to heaven or makes me better than someone who is not doing what I'm doing. So you see yourself better than or separated from. Anyone doing anything other than that are not seen as good people, or will go to the kingdom of heaven and all these different type of stuff. So you're being good, so to speak, as Neville and Abdullah was saying, that Neville was being good for nothing, meaning that Neville at the time was a Christian, and so he was not enlightened at the time. He had not ascended to um being spiritual and understanding the Bible as such. So in his doing, he's thinking that if he stays celibate, if he stays, as a vegan or whatever the case may be, and don't drink and all this type of stuff, or don't smoke, that it makes him a good person. And the Bible tells you that, you know, being good is not going to get you to the kingdom of heaven. You understand? Um, It says the only way to enter the kingdom of heaven, you must become like a child and be born again. All right. Um, so here, Neville, in a symbolic way, was eating locust and wild honey, you know, not eating the other things that everyone else was eating. And everyone else in this sense here are people who understood that doing these so-called decent things or whatever does not get you anywhere near the kingdom of heaven. All right. What is the kingdom of heaven? All right. The kingdom of heaven in this case is represented by symbolically by Jesus. He's the one representing the kingdom of heaven. That's where you're transitioning to get to that state. Once you enter the kingdom of heaven, you are only going to be operating from that state going forward. All right. And you have a hunger of desires, things that you desire and so on and so forth, that know that you're in the kingdom, meaning Christ consciousness, you and you are still on this earthly plane. You are not no longer thinking about, oh, the kingdom of heaven is some distant realm somewhere wherein you're going to go, if you become baptized or become a Christian, and whatever religion exists out there that preaches these things, these are no longer relevant because the kingdom of heaven is at hand. You are there now. It's not a place to go after death. um, you know, in terms of dying in real life. It's a place to go dying to things. As Neville was told that when he goes to Barbados, he was going to die, but not literally. It just simply means that he was going to die to the old self. After dying to the old self, he will find himself in the kingdom of heaven. So symbolically, that's what it really means. Um, is that it's not a physical death, it's a spiritual death, dying to the old and to enter the new or to become the new. All right. You're dying to the old self and now living as the new self. You're dying to the Old Testament. No, you're in the New Testament. You were once the flesh, but you're now spirit. You're still flesh in existence, but you're not living as flesh anymore. You are now living as spirit. And you now know that there is no place to go called the kingdom of heaven, because the kingdom of heaven is at hand, meaning that you have it right now. It's nowhere to go. It's just to be. You're just always being, you know, um, at this point, what you desire to be. All right. And in order to get what you desire to be, you must enter the kingdom of heaven, meaning that you must think from the state where everything already exists. when you're in the state of John and beyond that, you are limiting yourself and you're thinking of traditions, celibacy, becoming a nun, becoming a priest, becoming a vegan, don't eat pork, so you become a Seventh-day Adventist, and all these different things you do in order to be right or pleasing to God. None of that matters because these are earthly traditions that is man-made. All right. And everybody has one. And so if everybody has one, then which one is right? Because to do one, you could be doing the wrong thing. So nobody knows which is the right thing to do. And so you're doing yourself a disservice, as Never was told by Abdullah that you being good is good for nothing. Okay, it's not going to do anything good for you. Um, so here's the next section right here. It says the baptism of Jesus. When Jesus arrived at the Jordan River, he was to be baptized. John initially refused, feeling unworthy to baptize his own savior. You hear them say? His own savior. It never say this savior. Okay, he feels unworthy to baptize his own savior. Jesus insisted, stating it was necessary to fulfill all righteousness. Upon Jesus coming out of the water and the heavens opened, the Holy Spirit descended like a dove, and a voice from heaven declared Jesus to be the Son of God. And he said, he must increase, but I must decrease. Okay? So um our topic today is called You Must Decrease so that for your desires to increase. Okay? You must decrease for your desire to increase. Here it is saying right here, he must increase, but I must decrease. So this was John in the scripture, the Baptist, that was saying that Jesus must increase, but I must decrease. In other words, you were saying before Jesus can increase, I must decrease. So we never really understood what he was talking about there. But let's read the rest of the passage and hopefully you will get it. As Jesus' ministry grew, some of John's followers became concerned that people were flocking to Jesus instead. John displayed profound humility by telling his disciples that his mission was simply to point people to Jesus, the true Lamb of God. All right? So again, as Jesus' ministry grew, some of John's followers became concerned that people were flocking to Jesus instead. John displayed profound humility by telling his disciples that his mission was simply to point people to Jesus, the true Lamb of God. And so he was just basically saying that, the body slash the conscious mind, you know, is not what we should be concerned with, in our mission or going forward. We should be concerned with the Christ consciousness, that the conscious mind slash the body is not what or who is in control, that it is, Christ. That's why he was telling his disciples that his mission was simply to point people to Jesus. So what we're doing here every week we come here, we're pointing, you know, for those who are listening, those who are watching, giving them the I would say the insight of how your consciousness works. That, within our consciousness is your conscious mind and your subconscious mind, and you have to employ them appropriately. Okay. One is to desire, your conscious mind, and the other one is to express the desire, is to magnify the desire, is to give it birth. Okay, is to incubate it and bring it to manifestation and bring it to life, so to speak. So John pointing these people to Jesus is you pointing your desires to your subconscious mind. You're pointing your desires or sending them to the subconscious to be incubated, meaning to bring about the way in which it's going to be manifested. The conscious mind does not know how it is going to come about, does not know the process. Uh, it's the mind of knowledge is not to be construed with the mind of wisdom in terms of working out the unseen or the unknown. It's only the mind of knowledge, meaning that it knows what it desires, it's conscious of what it desires, um, and it does not have the consciousness to work out what it is desiring. Okay. And that's for a reason, because the conscious mind is masculine and the subconscious is feminine. And symbolically, in this plane of existence, the third dimension, no man can become pregnant or get pregnant. Um, but you can impregnate a woman or a female or the feminine aspect of mankind, right? So you're always the one who is to send or to give so that you can receive. Okay, that's why we were told that it's better to give so that you can receive or give before you can receive. Okay, that's really what they're saying. And it's reciprocal. It's a cycle. You understand? It comes right back. Whatever you give is going to come right back to you. So that's why you must first give, because until you give, the cycle does not start. You understand? It does not make that return. So you consciously have to first desire and then give it to the subconscious. Okay? And in this scene right here, this is just it's 11:11 by the way. This is just a description of how the mind works, or of how consciousness works. And they wrote it in the form of a story in the Bible. All right. And so this is a passing over from one state of consciousness to the other. We talked about this some time ago where William, the Passover, on the day of the Passover, one prisoner must be released. You understand? On the day of the Passover, the tradition of the Hebrews or Israelites, whatever, they have a custom that on the day of the crucifixion or the day of the Passover, we must release a robber. Okay? And that robber, whose name was Barabbas, must be released. Okay? He must be released, which means to decrease, so that the Christ or the Savior can be crucified and increase. You understand? So they had to release the robber, Barabbas, before they could crucify Jesus. And that was the custom. And the custom was called the Passover. You passing over from one state of consciousness or leaving one state of consciousness, dying to that state of consciousness, and passing over to the state that you desire. But you cannot pass over until you die or release the old state. That's all the story was saying, is that you're going to release the old state to move on to the new state, which is you consciously, in consciousness, crucifying yourself or attaching yourself. That's what really crucifixion really means, is to become one with or attach your consciousness to the thing desired. Okay? then that thing is going to manifest in days to come. All right. So here's the last part of this no, which is where they come to the real um meaning of the story. It says imprisonment and martyrdom. John's bold preaching ultimately led to his arrest. He had publicly condemned King Herod Antipas for unlawfully marrying Herodias, his brother's ex-wife. Herod, who had imprisoned him in the fortress of what's that? Machaerus. While in prison, John sent his followers to Jesus to confirm that Jesus was indeed the long-awaited Messiah. Herodias later manipulated Herod into having John beheaded. So let's read this again, because this part is really interesting. So John's bold preaching ultimately led to his arrest. He had publicly condemned King Herod Antipas for unlawfully marrying Herodias. Here's how Herod is spelled: Herod, and marrying Herodias is spelled Herodias. It's the same name. Okay? It's the same name. King Herod marrying Herod Dias. Kind of like marrying himself is the interpretation I'm getting. It says it's his brother's ex-wife. So how is it that in the Bible, in this story, he marries someone that has the same name as him? Herodias or Herodias, if you want to pronounce it that way. But it's the same name. And when I looked up the meaning, um, Herodias means of Herod. That's what it means, of Herod or from Herod. Okay? So biblically, or even in the story, how would it make sense that you marry someone of yourself? It wouldn't make any sense because it said it was his brother's ex-wife. So how is the name means of Herod if it wasn't talking about something differently? Certainly said to become one with the self. John the Baptist was preaching publicly by condemning the marriage between the two, and that's why he was imprisoned. Herod had him imprisoned in the fortress of Machaerus. And while in prison, John sent his followers to Jesus to confirm that Jesus was indeed the long-awaited Messiah. Herodias later manipulated Herod into having John beheaded. So let's see if we can unpack this one right here. So remember I said John the Baptist represents your body, your conscious mind. Jesus represents the subconscious mind. And in order for the subconscious mind to increase, the subconscious to increase, the conscious mind has to decrease, meaning that you have to what it says here, while John was in prison, he sent all of his followers to Jesus. All of your followers, are your desires. Everywhere you go, they're with you. It's like a man, everywhere he travels, all of his sperms are with him. You understand? But in order for them to become express or external from him, right? From himself or of himself, he has to um he has to send them to the woman. He has to send them to the one who can incubate these babies and bring them to existence. John was saying right here, in order for him to send his followers, in order for him to for these followers to become um expressed or enlightened or seen or have any type of relevancy, he sent them to Jesus. He said he sent his followers to Jesus to confirm that Jesus was indeed the long-awaited Messiah. How would Jesus confirm this? How would your subconscious confirm that it is the redeemer or the life bringer and all this type of stuff? It's because until you give your desires to the subconscious, they will remain with you. Until you impregnate a woman with your child, whether it be boy or girl, it will remain with you. So, how you confirm if that person can bring life is by giving it to them. You impregnate the woman and she get pregnant, and next thing you know, she brings you a child. That is how you confirm that she's a woman. You understand? And in the same token here, you have a desire and you have it with you the entire time, trying to condition it, doing all this type of stuff. But until you release it to the subconscious, who is your helper, it's going to remain with you. It can never, um, it could never move on to become what you desire it to be because you're always conditioning it or trying to manifest it on your own, trying to bring it into being. You are not capable or able of doing that because that is the law of consciousness. The masculine aspect of consciousness, that being the conscious mind, cannot, or the male aspect of consciousness cannot manifest. It can only desire. So in consciousness, this is the law that consciousness knows. We on earth, as male and female, operate this law all day long to infinity. Whether it be knowingly or unknowingly, it no matter. But it's something that we do, by sudden urges of sex and whatnot, right? And these things happen so naturally. We don't have to say, but if the woman gets pregnant, is she gonna carry my baby? Or the woman doesn't have to say, if the man impregnates me, am I gonna have a baby? We know it fundamentally. We know it. You understand? You don't have to know how to speak or even see. Stephen Wonder have kids and he's never seen any one of his kids. You understand? So it's an urge that is a fundamental law within all of us. And it is a fundamental law within consciousness. So if you employ it the right way by beheading, Herodias later manipulated Herod into having John beheaded. Herodias, remember I tell you, it means of Herod. Herod is you. Herod is the masculine or male principle. Okay? Whether you be female or male, in a matter, you have a masculine principle known as the conscious mind. And everything is coming from the conscious mind because it's the mind of knowledge. Everything that you desire, you have come to know it in your thoughts, in your mind. You know it exists. Nobody can tell you it doesn't exist within you. You know of this particular desire. All right? You know it. We don't need nobody to convince you it is not a present state of awareness in your mind. It is of you and from you. You understand? And you're married to it, so to speak. You're married to it. However, the marriage is somewhat unlawful because it cannot bear fruit. You cannot it cannot bring forth anything if it stays with you. Okay? So you have to send your all your desires or whatever that you're married to. These things then have to be passed over. So the first thing you do is you become one with this thing. Okay? You marry it. You become one with it. It's your desire. You catch the mood, the feeling. Okay? You live in the end. You go to Barbados and you remain there. Okay? And that is you becoming married to this thing. After you catch the feeling, the mood, all right, that is you passing it over now to the savior, to the subconscious, to the story right here, to Jesus, okay, whom you have baptized, meaning to give authority to all of your endeavors. You have given power. You've passed the power now over to your subconscious. Always. Because you have now come to know in consciousness that all your desires are possible. At one point you used to guess and wonder if, how and where and if and when and all this type of stuff, but you now know how consciousness works. You have passed through the state of John where you were, you know, starving yourself, not being able to manifest, not being able to bring forth your desires. That's basically what the story is saying. You're starving yourself. You're a celibate. You are not eating meat, not literally, but not, eating, you're not eating bread and wine. As I say, he came into this world not eating bread and wine, eating wild locusts and wild honey, you know. The eating of bread and wine is you um you know now becoming aware of or knowledgeable of the art of manifesting. Okay, that's basically what it's really exemplifying. Is now you now know that you are one with, as Serti said earlier, yourself. Okay, you have now become enlightened. You're one with the higher self. You're no longer flesh. And it's symbolically talked about in this movie or this story as the beheading of John the Baptist. Once you become one with yourself or the self or your higher self, it's a beheading, a symbolic beheading of trying to bring about anything. You now know all you have to do is just be. Just be by sending yourself to Barbados in consciousness. This is you being in Barbados. This is you being the person, man, woman, experiencing Barbados, experiencing your desire. You understand? You no longer are trying to think, wonder, ponder, figure out. You just bypass all of that and just go straight to the end. And in the end, you're just being. Being to be is to have or to live as, to operate as, to act as. You understand? And the way in which it's going to happen will in turn magnify itself so that you can have the experience in so-called real life or in the flesh. You're going to send your mind, your subconscious, you're going to send all your desires um, by way of your imagination to the desired state or desired place and dwell there. And then your body, which is the tabernacle or the temple, is going to disassemble from where it is right now, which is in Neville's case, it was New York. He disassembled. He sent his imagination, which is is consciousness or the cloud. Remember, we did the story some weeks ago that the cloud rests above the tabernacle, and the tabernacle cannot go anywhere until the cloud ascends and or move and descend upon a different location. And it is then that the tabernacle is disassembled and reassembled wherever the cloud goes, which is your state of being. Wherever you send your imagination and whatever state you sent it in, your body will at some point find itself there. This is you disassembling or deassembling, rather, from where you are, no, physically, and you will reassemble wherever you send your mind. That is all the story is really saying here, but they make it look so real that people think it is history, but it is not a history. It is a story of consciousness, of how to employ your conscious and subconscious mind in a particular order and the way in which things are going to play out to manifest it to bring it about will. Neville's father, sorry, our brother sent him a note that his tickets was bought. We're having a reunion and you must come. We're not taking no for an answer. We're having a reunion and we need you there. Okay? And that's how he got to Barbados. He said he had the sudden urge of going to Barbados. He had not gone since he came to America. And all of a sudden, he has a sudden urge. Similar to sex. You have a sudden urge. You understand? And it must be fulfilled. Okay? And it was fulfilled because of the practice that never was taught to do by Abdullah. I don't know if Serti has, are you able to speak on this, Serti? I know you're kind of busy.
No, sir, Chris. Not at this moment. I have people around me.
All right,
All
all
right.
right.
Got it.
Okay. Yeah, man. So,
I
oh, that G.
What's up, G?
What up? What up? Long
What's up,
time.
bro? Yeah, man. Beautifully said.
I thought that was you.
Yeah, man. Beautifully said as always, man. But I am all there is.
Mm-hmm.
I am all there is. Life is all there is. Life is all there is. God, God is all there is. God is all there is. So that's what that phrase means. I am all there is. I am that I am. I am
Mm-hmm.
that. God is that. I am that I am is God is that. What about this over there? Yeah, that's also God too. What about this right here? Yeah, that's I am is also I am that as well. So
Mm-hmm.
that's all. This is what's truly going on. We are all that is. We are all ye are God. You know what I'm saying? We are life. We are existence. This is what's truly going on in this game of life that each and every one of us is experiencing or playing, however you want to look at it. The way I see this is like say let's say like God is let's say the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? The ocean covers 70% of the planet. It's
Mm-hmm.
just, for example, God is the ocean. Just because, let's say one of us takes a cup and you scoop up some of that ocean
Mm-hmm.
water, just because you scoop the ocean water into the cup, that doesn't stop the water in the cup from being God. The water in the cup and the ocean are one and the same. Just because it's in the cup, that doesn't mean it's stopped being. Um, I am
In the ocean, yeah.
being the ocean. You know what I'm saying? So this is what's going on. We are there's many cups. There's black
Mhm.
cups, there's white cups, there's red cups, and we are all cups with ocean water in it, with God
Mhm.
in it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And this is all that's going on. there's nothing that's there's nothing that's in existence that's not uh, ocean water in the cup. Everything that you see is no matter what the vessel, the cup looks like, whether the cup is a tree, a plant, it all has ocean water in it. It all has the water within it. You know what I'm saying? It all has God. It is God. You know what I'm saying? It's just the 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 the
Mhm.
vessel. The vessel is God as well. It's just you know what I'm saying. There's nothing just because it's in a cup that doesn't mean it's not God. It's still God itself. You know what I'm saying? The water, God can take many forms. It doesn't matter what the form is. And there's everything that you see in life is God as well. Even what we call bad or negative or evil, that's also God too, but it's just on the other side of the spectrum. You know what I'm saying? It's God that forgot that it is. You know what I'm saying? So let's say like one of these cups has a hammer in his hand and he's breaking all the other cups. And then another cup comes along and say, "Hey man, what are you doing? You're just destroying yourself." You know what I'm saying? You're just let's say that cup is aware, is awareness is Jesus telling the other cup, "Hey man, what are you doing? You're just destroying yourself by destroying all the other cups. You're not separate from all the
Mm.
other cups. You know what I mean? You're just destroying yourself.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? All the other selves is you as well.
it's still you.
You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of Johns and Jonah. That's what I would call like the cups that are lost cups. They're wishy washy, hoping and wishing. There's a lot of Johns and Jonas. You know what I'm saying out there.
Mhm.
But we're all striving to be Christ or the cup that knows that it is
Yeah.
the ocean. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm, mhm.
That's what we're all striving to be that. You know what I'm saying? To be that cup that's aware. So this is what we have to each strive to be. So God, there's nothing like I said. There's nothing that's not God. I like when you what you said, G, when you said you have to, in order to receive, you have to give. The thing that you have to give is just give thanks.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? That's the only thing you have to give to receive is to give thanks. When you give thanks, you acknowledge the water. You acknowledge that
Mhm.
the water is there. The water is what's gonna bring everything to you. You know what I'm saying? You have to just give thanks for whatever the desire that sprouts up within you. Just give thanks for it. Once you go to that end state, whatever it is that desire is that you're trying to um, manifest within your reality,
Mhm.
just once you go to that end point where you're driving that car, you're in the house, you're with the spouse, you're in Barbados, once you're in that visualization state, just
Mhm.
give thanks. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing else that you have to give, just give thanks. And when you give thanks, you acknowledge what you're doing, your creative process that you are, what that process of visualizing and being in that end state. That means that it's already completed because once you're in that end state, that means that desires are you're already there. You're already at that point of attraction where you want to be. So you just have to give thanks. There's nothing else that you have to give. And just be aware, understand who you are, and every single one of us is just water in a cup, you know what I'm saying? And just love yourself no matter what. Just love each love all the other cups that are lost and try to do your best to bring them to where you are, you know what I'm saying? To that understanding of we are all the same thing. There's nothing
Mhm.
there's nothing that's separate from you. You know what I'm saying? We're all just a cups water in a cup, but we're all the same water. It's the same ocean water. It just has different vessels, different colors of the cup, or however you want to put it. But yeah, G. So that's how I see this thing
There-
is, man.
Yeah, wonderfully articulated, G. There's a word as you're speaking there with the ocean and the cup. There's this one word that embodies the 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 oneness of it, and it's the word your, which if you take the Y off, it says our. Our means inclusion. And then to make it your own, or a cup of the all, it becomes yours. But as you can see, the play on words, it is still the same word or the same meaning. It just at one point it's a whole, and in another way it's a uh individualism. It's having a personal experience of the whole. So it's like you dipping the cup into the ocean is having a personal experience um, of the whole. You understand? But as you're saying, you are not separate or different. You are one with, you are the all, just having a moment, so to speak, um, of the whole. You're taking a section or dissecting a section of the whole, but you're always one with. You understand? So I like the way you mentioned it there. And one more thing, as you were talking about giving thanks, that's very profound. As you were speaking, I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to try this next time with when I'm at a restaurant. Uh, when I order my food, I'm going to say to the person, thank you for your great service. Because that's not something that we say before. It's usually afterwards, maybe by giving them a review. And here's why I'm saying this. Because if someone was to say that to me, I'm putting myself in their shoes. If someone says that to me ahead of the service, it's going to prompt me to give them the best service, whatever that really is. But I'm going to take with me at that moment the 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 best way I can relate or equal what this person has already seen me doing, you know. Um, so it's the same as when you say within yourself, thank you, because you have now told your higher self, thank you for, meeting my needs, even though the five senses have not met the needs yet, don't see it yet, but your higher self will be moved to make it a reality because you have already gone ahead of the five senses. You've gone ahead of your five senses and seen it already as a reality. And so therefore you have now prompted, excuse me, you've prompted your higher self to make it a reality even more so because what you're showing there is faith or you know just receptivity. You've already received the 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 promise of your desire. You've already received it, acknowledging exactly. You've already acknowledged that it's already finished. There's nothing to come. It already is. As you're saying, I am. I am is always present, and so you're putting yourself in the present state right now, even though the five senses has not witnessed it, but you have bypassed the five senses. It's like you trusting that, hey, the thing I desire is, I already have it. Because if you have it in your mind, you really fundamentally already have it. It's never something you never had. You've always had it. It's just that your five senses have not witnessed it yet. But until you call it forth with faith, with acceptance that it already is, you will not, the five senses will not see it. But fundamentally, we already have everything, you know. There is nothing that we don't have. Everything is within us. As you say, the ocean has everything within it. But when you dip in the ocean, you are experiencing a particular section of the ocean or a particular section of consciousness, which is your desire. You understand? And it is always one with the ocean until you dip into it and dissect it. Like I said, you always have everything until you consciously have the experience with your five senses. You know, that is when you know on the outside of consciousness a thing, you know, intimately. That's when you know it. You get to have the experience, get to be one with it, externally. But internally, you have always been that thing. You just don't have it externally until you start to be it in consciousness, if that makes sense. All right. So, wonderfully explained, right there, G. Nice, or profound, symbolic representation or example of using the I am, and giving thanks and the ocean and all this type of stuff to show how this life itself really works. And we do it so naturally that it goes over our heads. When we go inwardly now to use consciousness on a metaphysical state, um, we don't somehow align it to the natural state, the naturalness. It's the same thing. It's just that to the natural mind, the conscious mind, um, operating naturally, with physical engagements and stuff like that. We know that if we plant a seed in the earth, it's going to grow. We know that if we have intercourse, male and female, we're going to have a baby, male or female, sometime twins, one male, one female, or both are, same sex or whatever. We know all these things. Naturally, nobody has to tell us or teach us how it works. We don't even know half the time why it works. No one knew why a woman got pregnant, thousands, hundreds of thousands of years ago. Nobody knew that fundamentally, why it happened. We just know that it happens. We just know it makes sense. We see the animals do it and they get pregnant. We do it and we get pregnant. We don't know. But not knowing does not mean it does not work. You understand? But there came a time when we, develop the knowledge as scientists and whatnot to find out why these things do happen. But what we do struggle with is the metaphysical side of it, the psychological and spiritual side of consciousness, wherein we do not know, for the most part, that all things are made by a thing that does not appear. All things are made by consciousness that does not appear. You understand? So we think, you know, we cannot figure out or fathom how can something be made by something that does not appear. We cannot align the relationship with that. It is too woo-woo or like, movie like and stuff like that. But that's really how it works. All things are made by the thing that does not appear, by consciousness. It's just a law. We don't understand or know, when and how all of life started and all this type of stuff. Man tried to explain it in a book called the Bible about Adam and Eve. And that is just not what really happened. They're explaining how consciousness works, not how everything began. They were telling a story of consciousness, a story of your awareness, your imagination. That's all. They were not telling a story of how life began. You understand? because no one knows and will ever know how and when, life really began and all this type of stuff. We just know that we are here. We're having the experience. But we also know that though we are here in the physical, this is just an expression. This is just a shadow. This is just a projection of who we fundamentally are, which is consciousness. You understand? And we get to arrange and rearrange the consciousness itself, which is pliable, malleable, fluid. We get to put it in a different shape, a different cup, a different uh, vessel, and it takes the shape of that. You understand? We know that we have that control. And, we just have to, because of the law within consciousness, things take time to project, to manifest. Okay? That part of the consciousness requires a delay. Okay? And it is fundamental in its operation. It's not going to you cannot alter it. You understand? It's just how it works. It's called a grace period. It's in case the thing desired, and in most cases, it's a lot of subconscious thoughts on our part that are what I call no adverse. And once we come to know that consciousness is what creates reality or is creating our reality. If we know that we've had some negative perceptions or beliefs or all these different type of things, we can go back and, as never say, you know, rearrange or when call it again, revision. We can revise, rehearse the old beliefs, which means to rearrange them, you know, the old beliefs and then cross it over into the new belief. And then that's what we will um manifest or express or experience. You understand? But if we are not conscious of that, that our reality is being formed by something that does not appear or that's not apparent, that's not visible, these things will fall upon us. And we will say to ourselves, why? I wonder what's going on, not knowing that we are the one operating this invisible field, so to speak, whether it be conscious or unconsciously, but we are always operating this field, this awareness. And by law, it is impartial, does not give a damn if you know or don't know. You understand? Or if you understand how it works or does not work. It does not care. It operates based on how you operate it. If you operate it incorrectly, you will get an incorrect result. If you do a mathematical equation incorrectly, you will get an incorrect answer. You're going to get the answer, but it's not going to be correct. But based on how you worked it out, you made a few errors, mistakes, whatever you want to call it, and you end up at a result. Well, the person who knows what the right result is supposed to be is going to mark it wrong. You understand? But if you worked it out properly, using the right numbers, the right equations, or following the directions and stuff like that, they're going to mark it right. But they cannot mark something that is right wrong and something that is wrong right. And consciousness is the same. Nothing can be hidden from it. You can't reason with it. As I said, well, I know I didn't reside in the right state of mind. I was, anxious. I was worried. I saw nothing but doom and gloom. But see if it can make it go right for me. And it works so. It's going to give you exactly what you perceive. You understand? So you have to be in the right state or frame of mind of your desires to have them realized. And the stories of the Bible, like the one we read today with John the Baptist and Jesus, is just an example of how the individuals who wrote the Bible were telling a story of consciousness. Very what's the word? It's very creative, to use that word, and how they wrote a story of consciousness and made it appear to be history. What they were writing is what is ongoing, always a gone. It is nothing that went on or that is going to come, even though they use these words interchangeably and stuff like that. But it's just to make it look like it's a history, past, present, and future. But they're just writing about a present whole. Everything happened already. They're just making it known as to what they became aware of fundamentally. You understand? And so when they write it, it's going to be written in the garb of history, um, and in some way to tell futuristically of what is to come. But there is nothing to come. There's nothing that passed. Everything happened already. Everything is one present whole within you. You know, every being that comes into this world with this Bible story already in them, which is their consciousness. You come with it already. Someone just who came before you wrote about it in a way that it seemed as if it's a historical events that had happened. But when you check the levels and you reason consciously and with common sense, you would understand that none of this nonsense that they wrote about could have ever happened and never happened, never took place. These things are taking place in your consciousness. It is only in your consciousness where you will find these superficial or super um these unnatural or supernatural events that take place. I mean, I can imagine I'm on the moon right now, for crying out loud. You understand? I can imagine that. You know, it's the only place it is supernatural. But these natural supernatural things cannot happen here. You understand? So what they're writing about is your consciousness, which is the macro, you know, of this micro. You know, it is the macro universe. It is a larger, much more vast, has everything within it than what we see here. What we're experiencing is just a little spark, a minute section, a cross section of the entire consciousness. You know, and we're having this experience right here and right now. You know, but we carry within us this a dimensionally larger existence, you know, and one by one, little by little, as they would say, we are drawing from it what already exists within it. You know, that is the only fundamental explanation that you can give um, of such a dynamic force, you know, that that is present in all beings. Like Carl mentioned with the water and the ocean. It's present everywhere. Everywhere you go, water there. You understand? It's a physical or a symbolic explanation or example of consciousness, which is everywhere. You know, it is all over. Everything you see is consciousness as that form. Okay? But it is yet still just a micro section or a micro cosm of the macro. You understand? The larger, greater self, the universal self, is way vaster. We're just having a tiny, minute, very minuscule experience of it. But one at a time. This is why things come into this world little by little. This is why we have just gotten to creating all of what we have created so far. Wherever in the world they've created things, these things are coming in little by little on a small scale. There is there's been so many things that has passed in terms of what we've come to know, but it is very, very minute as to what we don't know in terms of creation. You know, what is it? What else are we going to desire and create? All of what we've done so far is pale, it pales in comparison to what we have not done. And it will always be like that. There will never come a time, ever, when we have outdone our um exhaust the resource. We cannot exhaust it. It is inexhaustible because it has no beginning, it has no end. Cannot exhaust it. We might become exhausted with all the things that we've created so far, but the source itself cannot be exhausted. You understand? And at no time we will create more um than it has remaining because it's infinite. You understand? So it's just a law that we have to create little by little, given how the consciousness works fundamentally. Okay? In this world, everything has to come over time, little by little. Cannot come all at once, cannot come suddenly, all these different things. Um, they must come in sections, one at a time. And they're not real. They're just an experience that we can change the minute we desire to die to that present self and move on to the new self that we desire. Do you have something to say?
Yeah, G. Like the audio I was listening to, it was funny when the guy was like, yeah, being nice will not get you into the kingdom of heaven. So that was kind of funny, but it's real. It's like just because you're walking around being nice to everybody and pleasant and polite, that's not gonna get you into the kingdom of heaven. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
The only thing that's gonna get you into the kingdom of heaven is to be aware. You know what I'm saying? Being aware is the only thing that's gonna get us into the kingdom of heaven. You know what I'm saying? And to be aware of what? Be aware of everything. Be aware of who you are. Understand who you are. You know what I'm saying? You are I am. Understand the laws that because you are I am that you have to apply within this realm. You know what I'm saying? Thoughts are things. Turn water into wine. You turn thoughts into reality. You turn your imagination into reality. When you turn water into wine, that's what it means. You turn your desires or your imaginations into reality.
Mhm.
Like you said, G, just because you don't believe in the law or you don't believe in metaphysics, it doesn't mean that you have to. You're not going to use it. It's still going to use you. Either you're going to use it or it's going to use you. You know what I'm saying? So you have to choose. What we're doing here is to reminding ourselves, each other, to stay awake, to
Yeah.
stay alert. You know what I'm saying? That's all we're doing right here. You know
Mind.
what I'm saying? Reminding each other to stay alert because we're no matter there's no way that you're not gonna use the law or is not gonna use you. You know what I'm saying? In order for you to bring anything into your reality, you have to go there. And where is that place? You have to go into your imagination. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing that's in everything you see in your room, everything around you, um, came from there. The TV, the table, the couch, the pencil, the light bulb, everything. Um, was it Edison? Thomas Edison. He had to go there. He had to go into his imagination, and see the light bulb. He had to flick the light switch 5,000 times. You know what I'm saying? Inside his imagination. You know what I'm saying? To bring it into the reality. He had to go there first. the laptop. You have to go into your imagination to create the laptop. So everything comes from there. Yeah, it's not your imagination is just not is not just is not is everything. But people try to the people who know what's going on try to downplay it, or it's just your imagination. It's just your imagination, man. They try to downplay it and make us feel like, oh, using our imagination is nothing. But using our imagination is everything. That's metaphysics. You know what I'm saying? That's turning water into wine. You know what I'm saying? Now we're just alert now. We have to stay alert, stay awake to that understanding that is not our imagination is just it's just not nothing. So you have to guard your imagination. You have to, like a gardener, like a farmer, you have to cultivate it. You have to work on it. You have to, stay focused, and so whatever you want to bring in can grow, because it will grow no matter what. Like there's no way that you're not gonna use your imagination throughout the day. You're gonna visualize something. Now you just have to consciously be aware of what you're visualizing, or pre-program what you want to visualize. Write down what you would like to desire. You know what I'm saying? Get a piece of paper, write things down that you would like to experience, and bring into your life, and go there. Go into your Once you write them down, go and actually go into your imagination and experience these things. You know what I'm saying? Go into your imagination, go shopping, and start. You know what I'm saying? This is what you have to do. You
Mm.
might as well do it yourself. Once you're watching TV, the commercials that you're watching, they know what's going on. They gonna These things that you see in the car commercials, food commercials. These people, they know what's going on. They're getting you to imagine yourself eating the food or going driving that car. They're gonna use you. They're gonna try to use you to do that. You know what I'm saying? So you might as well do it yourself, because these people know what they do.
Next thing you know, you find yourself at McDonald's, right?
For real, eating that burger,
Or
that
you
whatever.
drive, or you driving, and all you seen is McDonald's. Imagine that.
I'm loving it.
They've never been more visible until they made it visible in your mind. Imagine that. You're right. That's
You know,
profound. Yeah.
that's what we're gonna do. That, like I said, the law doesn't care um, if you know about it or believe in it or choose to
Mhm.
use it. You have no choice but to use it.
Mhm.
So you're gonna just now we're just you're gonna use it consciously, or you're gonna use it unconsciously, and it's gonna use you, or you're gonna use it, and it's gonna
Mhm.
bring things gonna come into your existence, into your experience, and you're gonna say, how did this happen? How did I? You did it. It's at some point in time, you
Mhm.
visualized something, you thought about it, you went into your imagination unconsciously, and
Mhm.
whether it's something negative, you did that.
Yeah.
And you brought it in. It's your fault. It's gonna be your fault whether something good comes in too, something that blesses your life. You went into your imagination and you experienced these blessings. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So just this is what all we're trying to do every Sunday is just to remind ourselves to stay alert. You're gonna use it. Don't let nobody whatever you are trying to bring into your reality, keep it to yourself. Don't go tell nobody, hey, this is what I just visualized I'm trying to create. Just keep all that stuff to yourself. Don't tell nobody. Just let them see it. You know what I'm saying? They will see it. They will see the child. You know what I'm saying? Don't
Yeah.
say nothing to nobody. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of people,
Silence is golden, eh?
when yeah, man, when people, one other thing I get when you said that being nice won't get you into the kingdom of heaven. Um, a lot of people, like right now, my wife and kids, they all went to church, and she tell me, "Hey, you want to go to church?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'll go," but that's kind of how I see, the whole being nice. Well, just because I go to church for an hour and praise and all that stuff, that's not gonna. It's
Mhm.
not. It's almost like being nice. Yeah, that's cool. That's you know what I'm saying. That's cute that we're doing that. You're there. You know what I'm saying. But as soon as church ends, these people are back to unconsciously um applying the law or being used by the law. You know what I'm saying? Not everybody in there is awake and consciously applying the law of attraction. Just because you go to church doesn't mean, just because you're being nice doesn't mean you're gonna make it to the kingdom of heaven. You know what I'm saying? You can, as soon as you leave church, you automatically fall asleep. Consciously though, you like metaphysically you fall asleep. You know what
Hmm.
I'm saying? So I mean, I go to church. You know what I'm saying? I have nothing against it. We all have been there, you know what I'm saying? But
Hmm.
I have nothing against it, you know what I'm saying? But this is what truly is creating our reality, creating, gonna
Yeah.
get us into the kingdom of heaven, the kingdom, kingdom.
Hmm.
Your mind is the dome, your brain is the dome,
Hmm.
the kingdom, you know what I'm saying? So this is all what that word means. You have the kingdom of heaven is within you. You know
Hmm.
what I'm saying? You are the life, and I am the life and the way. You are the life and the way, you know what I'm saying? So let's just consciously apply these things. Don't let the outside world use your imagination. You guard it, you use it, you apply it, you stay alert, be alert at every single moment in time. This is what we're trying to do. Just stay alert every single second. Even when you wake up in the morning, just stay alert what's going on within. What are you saying to yourself? How do you feel about yourself? How do you feel about life? How do you feel about what's going on around you? Who's around you? The people, you know what I'm saying? You
Yeah.
got to be alert to all of that. You know what I'm saying? How the stuff that you want to come in, just stay alert within. You know what I'm saying? Be aware within. That's all you have to be. You don't have to be nice, but you do have to be aware. I love I love all y'all, man.
Yeah, that's a good one right there. You don't have to be nice, but you have to be aware. Yeah. That is profound. And that's what Never was saying, you don't have to be all these different things to enter into the kingdom of heaven. The only way to enter is to become aware, first and foremost, that you are fundamentally the kingdom of heaven. You just did not remember because you came here in a state of forgetfulness. But now we have to turn around, like Sir T say, and remember to forget who we are being at this moment as in the flesh. Forget to remember to forget, you know, um, that before you came here, you had already agreed that this was not going to be real. It was not going to be who you are. It can never be who you are because who you are is the cause. All you're having, all you're experiencing is what are the effects, the result of the cause, the symptoms. You understand? That's what you're experiencing, but you are not the symptoms, you're just, or there are the effects, you're not the experiences, you are not your body, you are not your name that they gave you. You are not anything that is seen. You are the unseen that makes everything seen. You understand? And you did this on purpose or for a purpose to experience, yourself, to experience, the many different, realities that are latent within you. You know, it's the only way that you can have the experience is to become physical, to become a vessel. You understand? That carries with it, to use your example, G, the cup of water. You carry it wherever you go. But this cup of water, which is pliable, malleable, and without form, is what gives form to everything that you put it in. Every time you have a desire, you pour a little bit of that water into the thing desired, the shape, because that's what you're doing is you're forming or shaping something with consciousness. And when one's consciousness agrees with the shape, meaning to enter the shape and stay there, um, then it becomes that thing. but it has to stay there long enough, often enough, and with feeling, with emotional intent until it takes form, it takes the shape. Kind of like when you put water in a bottle and put it in the freezer. If it does not stay there long enough, it will not take the shape, It cannot. It has to stay there for a length of time and it becomes hardened as ice, hardened as that shape, whatever shape the bottle is or the container is. If you keep putting it in the fridge or the freezer and taking it back and forth, it will never take that form or harden into fat. It may have the shape, but it will not harden into fat. You understand? And so this is what happens with us in manifesting. We we desire something and we take the shape of it, but we don't remain in the shape. We don't remain in the form. We don't remain there long enough. We don't remain in Barbados long enough because we don't see, we're looking for signs, we're like the Jews, we're looking for signs um, as to how it's going to happen. And the more we see signs of it not happening, is the more likely we will not remain in the state. It's true. If we don't see or get any frequent, daily, weekly, hourly, response of meeting our desire, we we start to deform. We start to undo the desire. You understand? We start to have doubt and fear, and we start using adversities as the reality. You know, so man, this thing is not going to happen. This is what my reality is, and it is not true. You understand? You're just going through stages leading up to your desire. That's all. You're just going through stages leading up to the desire. The stages are not always going to be loved, liked, or fun, but it is leading there. If you hold on to the desire at hand still, everything must detour and come around and lead you to the thing desired. As people always say, I gotta test you. Yes and no, you know. There is no God testing anybody. What it really means is that these are states, are stages that you have unknowingly created, in your consciousness that you must pass through on your way to your desire. You know, when you were creating your desire, you were worried if you have enough money. So, well, maybe you might get fired. Unfortunately, that as you were planning your desire, you know, you might lose your job. Maybe you lose hours on the job. Maybe, somewhere, somehow, something pops up to take whatever money you have because you said to yourself, but we don't have enough money. So something has to show up to make it true that you don't have enough money to meet that desire. Now, are you going to then let go of the desire because something else came and took whatever money you got? So that in a sense, it's like a test. We want to see how badly you want this desire. And if that does not move you, if that does not remove your faith, if that does not remove you off the track going towards your desire, if that does not derail you or distract you or detract you, um, then you remain going towards your goal. And in some way, shape, or form, whatever had happened will be for the best. It was going to lead you, it's going to lead you to a better job, a better pay, better whatever. Something better is going to come because you remain faithful to your desire. Like Neville always say, remain faithful to your assumption. Faithful mean not because things are going good, you are faithful. That's not faithful. That is just things are going good. And so, you don't need faith for that. You really need faith when things are going bad. Faith is not for when things are going good. It's for when it's bad, when it's not apparently in no way, shape, or form possible. That's where faith comes in. That's real faith. When there's an impossibility at present. Possibility no need no faith. You understand? Because it's going just fine. You don't have to remain um in the desire or whatever. It's somehow coming to you, whether you know it or not, or whether you're faithful to it or not. But when things start to go awry, that's when you need to really stay fast in your faith. And what is your faith? All your faith is staying in the desired state. That's all faith really is. It is not, holding on to the Lord and all this foolishness they tell you. Okay? It's holding on to your desired outcome, holding on to the state of the wish fulfilled, already finished. You are living in the end, already finished. That is what faith really is. Especially when, maybe it's something that you're trying to purchase, a house, a car, whatever, and there's no sign of it happening. You don't have the right credit, the right amount of money. All things that are happening. A bunch of different stuff are happening. If you don't waver in your faith, meaning if you don't waver in living in the end, then your consciousness that is ever watching will pick up on your faithfulness, pick up on your commitment, pick up on your unwavering faith, pick up on your bravery, your persistence, your perseverance. You will pick up on all of that stuff and create an outcome that releases um all of these hangups and just take it to your desire like on a cloud. You're just gonna float towards it. You understand? So that is our main goal that we are working on, having the ultimate discipline, to use that word. That's really what we're working towards. Discipline. We're not disciplined enough so that when things are going helter skelter, we're not disciplined enough to remain faithful, which is to remain in the state. That is faithful. Living in the end. From the very beginning of your desire, and come what may, no matter what go on, you remain there, regardless of external facts. The only fact that is and ever was is your consciousness. Okay? That is the only fact of life. Everything else are just shadows. Um, they're just temporary, not here to stay. Okay? And so the more you turn away your attention from them or from these um hang-ups or fallbacks or adversities and whatnot, the less attention you pay to them is the sooner they die, because your attention is the lifeblood. It's like how your blood flows to every limb of your body. The only reason why you limb them are on your body because they might get blood. The minute you stop getting blood to any one of your limbs, it's going to die because the blood is what's keeping it alive. The same way with your consciousness. The minute you start paying attention to all the foolishness that's going on, is the sooner it will die. and then you turn the same consciousness to something else that you desire to have. So you move it from the thing you don't like to the thing you like. And the thing you like will be magnified and made present. The thing that you don't, it will die under the weight of its own nothingness. But what we do, we're paying both of them attention, back and forth. We're looking at we don't have no money. We're looking at we want money. We're looking at we don't have the money. We're looking at we want money. We're looking at we don't have a job. We want a job. We're back and forth like this, and nothing can be magnified because it has to be all frozen into the state that we want it to be because we are not staying there long enough. You cannot ride two horses at the same time. You cannot serve two masters. That's what the Bible is telling you. You cannot live in the present and live in the past at the same time. It's either or either. You cannot be lukewarm. You understand? You cannot be on the fence trying to work out the thing. Just live in the end and the thing will work itself out. So again, just to recap, now we're going to close out. Today's lesson is from the biblical story in the New Testament with John the Baptist and Jesus, his cousin. John the Baptist was born 6 months before Jesus. The reason why they mention the number six is because man, the number that represents man is six. Okay? Man was made under, biblically speaking, for those of you watching, we're not talking about biblical history. We're talking about spiritual history. We're talking about your imagination, your awareness of being. This is what the Bible was written about. Um, it is your own biography, your spiritual biography. All right. But just speaking from the stories told, man who is male and female, not Adam or Aman, but man. Okay? Man is male and female, and man is one, having a dual experience of the one. You understand? But man was made on the sixth day, biblically speaking. Okay? So this is why he was born 6 months before. They don't use these numbers for no reason. Why would it make sense to tell you what month or how long before he was born? It must mean something. So six is the number of man, and they're talking about here, as we mentioned before, that John the Baptist represents the body or the conscious mind. Okay, and so that is where the six is. The mark of the beast is said to be 666. And the reason for that is because mankind, or man, is three-dimensional: mind, body, and spirit. You understand? So 666, you're the mark of the beast. Man is the beast, not no beast that is to come. The beast already is here. And I'm not even going to get into it anymore, but I was listening to Neville talking about it on another level, which we'll probably talk about another time. But just know that man is the beast. Okay, there is no 666 that is to come, or the antichrist. The conscious mind, the body, is the antichrist. Okay, your Christ consciousness is your higher self, and the conscious mind is anti to that, meaning not the does not have that power as the Christ mind. Okay, it's not necessarily against, as they would try to teach you that anti means against. It's not necessarily against It just mean not. You are not um you are the conscious mind is not the subconscious, or is greater than the subconscious. The subconscious is the greater aspect of your consciousness. You understand? So, but they say anti because you are always conscious of being flesh, or being conscious of your surroundings. So you are not aware of your subconscious. You're not aware of the Christ mind. Okay? And when you become aware of it, you are going to be in you're going to become like, you know, it's going to be a fight. It's going to be well, I know that I desire this and I'm trying to find out and figure out how it's going to happen. I don't know about the subconscious, or I don't know if that thing is going to be able to manifest my desires or whatever. I'm going to try and figure it out on my own. This is you going against your higher self. This is you trying to figure out things on your own in a conscious way, not knowing that you should pass it over to the subconscious to figure it out. You understand? So, in this story, John, who was a cousin of Jesus, he was born first, meaning that the conscious mind, or the body, always comes first before you ever know about your higher self, before you know about your spirit self. The same thing with the story of Jacob and Esau. Esau was born first. Esau is the flesh, hairy, in the visible world. And Jacob was smooth skin. So Jacob is the second man. Jesus is the second Adam. Remember, me tell you, say Adam means man. Adam is mankind, male and female. Well, Jesus is the second Adam, meaning that higher self is who you will come to know after you know yourself in the mirror, after you know flesh, after you have experienced your flesh, after you have become aware of your surroundings. The last thing you will know, which is the second thing, is that you are a higher being, that you are a spirit. Okay? The conscious mind is the psychological mind. The subconscious mind is the spiritual mind. So you have this battle between the two minds, one that thinks and the one that is a spirit, that give life to everything that comes from the psyche, from the mind. And you're thinking that you're the mind, or you're the conscious mind. You don't know that you're bigger than that. You are so much vast, much more vast than that. But the operation of the two are man and wife, or husband and wife, male and female. They are always together, always married, cannot never separate. As scripture said, let what God put together, let no man put asunder what God put together. You understand? So this is what cannot ever be divided, always together. But man, in our ignorance, does not know the order in which they're supposed to work. And that's what we're telling you from the story today. John the Baptist was beheaded, meaning to come to an understanding that you are not in control consciously, okay? Or you're not supposed to take control. You're supposed to desire a thing and turn it over to your subconscious to incubate and materialize it at some point. It's the spirit, it gives life. You only think, reason, contemplate, meditate on what you desire. The subconscious cannot do any of that, does not do any of that. Okay? Until you consciously do it and then turn it over to the subconscious, then it reasons with enlightenment on how to bring it about. but it cannot impregnate itself. It has to first be impregnated by you. And it does not matter what you impregnate it with, whether it be good or bad. It brings forth, if the baby is unfortunately have a some physical deformities or whatever, the mother is still going to bring the baby. You understand? If the baby is formed properly, she's still gonna bring the baby. Your subconscious is the same. It is impartial, does not care, you know, what you're thinking about, good or evil. All right. So that's really what the story was telling us, guys. One of us must decrease the conscious mind, the body, so that the other, the subconscious mind, the spirit, can increase. Can increase what? Your desire. The thing you desired can bring it to be. But you have to behead yourself. The self here I'm talking about is the conscious mind. You have to behead that part of you, meaning to stop intervening with the desire or to stop preaching gloom and doom, to stop doubting and fearing and all these things, but to remain in your desired outcome. And that's why the story wrote that John was beheaded, by King Herod. And it was by his wife's wish. They asked her, what you wish? And she said, I want John the Baptist's head on a platter, you know. But it's not real. This is just what you have to do in consciousness. You have to behead yourself. You have to take yourself out of the way. Get out of your own way. Live in the end and stay there and stop coming back to the so-called reality of the end not looking like it's going to happen and get away. Stop dipping up the seed to see if it is growing. Exactly. Stop digging up the seed, sorry, to see if it is growing. Leave it there. The ground already knows how to incubate it and bring it to be. There is no farmer in the world that can grow a tree if it is not planted in the ground. Him could have good till. I have many seeds laying around here, and I know I'm gonna see it grow because it's not planted. But if I ever put them in the ground, they will start to grow. We can't force ripe it or force grow it. It's not possible. But the ground, which is symbolic to your subconscious mind, knows how to do it. So you have to plant everything there and then leave it be, meaning to remain in the wish fulfilled, remain faithful to the assumption, you know. And in time, especially when you move on to something else, stop paying attention to the seed planted, stop paying attention to the desire planted, because that's when you start to uproot it. You're watching out, you're looking for signs. Stop doing that. Go and do something else that will take away your attention. It's not taking away your residency or faithfulness to the desire. It's still you still desire it, but you're not looking out how it's going to happen. To look out how it's going to happen is to dig up the seed. Stay faithful by going somewhere else, get involved in a bunch of stuff, and that's why things come to you like a thief in the night, because you were no longer you had forgotten. You were so engulfed in something else that you did not um, um, dig up or interfere with the seed, and it began to germinate. And one day it just shows up out of the blue, as them said. You understand? So that's what the story was, guys. It's a beautiful, brilliant story. Two cousins. John came first, Christ came last, because that's how the order of consciousness works. Conscious mind is always first. The man is always in front, the woman is always the backbone, the of the man. She keeps everything together. That's how it works, you know. And it's the same thing here with this story. You understand? So, not gonna go any further, but that's pretty much our what we wanted to, broadcast and to bring to your understanding. For those of you out there watching the story, it's not a true story. It's not a real story, but it is true, meaning it is a fundamental fact within consciousness, but it is not real, meaning that it was never a history of any kind. No man ever named Jesus, no man named Jesus ever existed, and no man named John ever existed neither. Neither one of those guys never walked this earth. Perish that thought. Okay? Those are personifications that lives within you, which is your consciousness. And all you're doing is employing them to reap what you sow. Okay? What you're sowing are all your desires that you want to experience or have, and you're going to reap it if you sow it the right way. All right. So that's it, guys. Thank you for your attention. G. Um, let me see if Sir T is still there, but as he was busy and stuff. So Sir T dropped off. He's not here anymore and everything. But thank you for your participation, G, and giving us some words of wisdom as always. You know, really appreciate that. And everyone else who are here.
No pressure, brother. No pressure. Yeah, man. We all just gotta be aware first, and then be nice, and then go be nice.
In that order, that's right. I
Yeah.
like that. I like that. Be aware, then be nice. Not be nice, then be aware. That's right. That's how you enter the kingdom of heaven. And but yeah, we're gonna close it out here. But thank you guys for being here and enjoy the rest of your Sunday. And we will be back here again next week Sunday, which will be, I believe, July 1st. Imagine that. 6 months, it's not July, June 1st, sorry. We're 6 months into this new year. And you know, it's going to be great. All right. So until then, guys, take care and we'll see you at the top. Have a good day. Peace.